Give me a P.
P.
Give me an H.
H.
Give me a B.
B.
What do you say?
Hey.
Give me a P.
P.
Give me an H.
H.
Give me a B.
B.
What do you say?
Hey.
Hey, welcome to our Promotion Pro interview series. My name is Josephine Hanna, but you can call me Jose. I'm the founder of Promote Her Business, where it is our mission to promote your business and each other online, offline, all the time. And this month, as everybody knows, we have a very, very hot topic. We are talking about adding retreats to your business. So if you've never done a retreat, but you're planning to do a retreat, now is a great time to learn how it's done. If you've never even considered doing a retreat, this is a great call to be on and video to watch, because you have an opportunity to see, is a retreat right for you, and get awesome tips from our guest experts. So what I'm going to say is really important, and you're going to want to take some really copious notes, because you're going to be able to learn about what you really need to think about with retreats, what could even go wrong, how to handle the unexpected, and how to really create what's in your heart out there in the world through events. So today we have an awesome guest, and her name is Cynthia Riggs, who is the Biz Diva. She is so passionate about helping women reach their highest, most fulfilling and profitable business potential. She built a multi-million-dollar business, once again, multi-million-dollar business from the ground up. And Cynthia just has this reputation to take action now and get things done as a business consultant. She delivers 30 plus years of entrepreneurial expertise on planning and strategy and marketing and finances. Oh my goodness, what can't this woman do? Through workshops, speaking engagements, mastermind groups, retreats, and one-to-one mentoring. So Cynthia, are you there?
Oh, I'm here. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely. So, and I'm really glad you're here, because we did tell the community that we have rescheduled this interview because of what happened with you and the retreat that you were doing. For everybody who might not be in the loop, we were going to interview Cynthia a little bit earlier. And what happened was, on the first day of her 4-day retreat, she had to deal with the wildfires and actually flee. So of course, as a community, we understood that. We absolutely wanted to reschedule this interview, and also encourage people, if you haven't yet, there are tons of people that still need support from what has happened, animals, the elderly. They're still in need of cash donations, gift cards. So please keep donating. People really need you. And we are just so blessed to still be able to even do this interview. So Cynthia, we really appreciate you, and even being on the call today, because that really took something.
Thank you again for having me and for being patient with me. I was in no shape last week to do anything, to do much of anything. So yes, I'm better today, and the community is better today, as the wildfires are mostly contained. I think all of them are in the 80% containment rate. And so people are feeling better. People are able to return home who were evacuated. And, the saddest thing is that I've lived in this community for most of my adult life, and there's not one person who doesn't know at least one person who lost their home. I mean, it is a really widespread, horrible situation. I know people who lost their homes, who lost their businesses, their pets, their cars. It's quite a tragedy, and it was the gift that kept on giving all week. It just kept getting worse and worse. And so finally, I think we're feeling a little bit of reprieve on the other side of it. So, yeah, thanks for asking about that. So if you want me to dive in a little bit about the retreat and how that was impacted, I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you. I've been volunteering. I've been dealing with the women who are with me, many of whom live in my community. And I haven't really thought a lot about myself and how this impacts me as the person who was facilitating the retreat. So, we'll see what comes out of my mouth as we go this way. To say that it was a tragedy is probably an understatement. It's probably one of the worst things that's ever happened to me in my life, in that when you're fleeing from fire nipping at your heels and 10 minutes after you escape, the place burns to the ground with most of everything of your stuff and everybody else's stuff in it. There is definitely a level of trauma that happens. And I think that's what I'm in the process, as well as many other people, of recovering from, is just, it's just so unexpected. You just don't ever think this kind of thing is going to happen to you. As a business person, I would say my biggest learning was my insurance policy, and that I don't have the insurance that I need to have that would best serve me if this or something else ever happened again. So I would highly recommend that if you're going to do retreats and events, that you make sure that you have an insurance policy that covers your losses and the losses of your clients and whatever else might come your way, because we don't know where we are in the list of the Mayacamas Ranch priorities. We were on site, so perhaps that gives us an edge, but we're hoping for the best. And my insurance covers my real property and some things, but it's more focused on my office, not on my business. And that's an error in my judgment that I will correct and not make again. So, and then the other thing I'm going to say, just really honestly, is that one of the things that I noticed right out the bat was that Mayacamas was not a real sophisticated business. Their contract was very elementary. It was all about really them getting paid and you not getting your money back. There was not really much coverage. There wasn't coverage of anything else that I, as a business owner, might have some responsibility or not responsibility for. I noticed it, but I didn't put it into the context of, well, if something bad happens, how is this going to impact me? I just thought, well, they're not the most sophisticated business. Oh, well. But again, now in looking at it, my due diligence could have been better. Typically when you're doing an event or a retreat, you're asked for an insurance liability waiver from your insurance, and they did not ask me for that, which my insurance person tells me I have no liability for my clients and all of their stuff because they did not ask me for it. That's probably an oversight on their part. So I would just recommend that, we don't think about the bad things that are going to happen. I certainly didn't. And I would say I'm a pretty astute business person. I've been in business a long time. When I had a brick and mortar business, man, I knew insurance upside and downside. And I was really clear on what my liabilities were. And, but as a consultant, not so much. And so I would say I've learned my lesson. I don't know that there's going to be a big consequence to it, other than I feel like I need to take care of the big picture of my business better than I did. So in terms of the retreat itself, we had an awesome beginning. I'm a very focused person, and one of the things that's different about my retreats than many people's retreats is mine are not open to the general public. My retreats are focused on my clients, people that have worked with me or are working with me, because what I know about myself is that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, which probably not everybody is, and I like to do a deep dive. I like to do really important, significant work. So I want the women there to be women who sort of get that, who like that, and who want it. So that said, everybody there was somebody that I have a relationship with. And the fact that we all sort of scattered to the winds was really tough on me and probably on other people. This happened so quickly that there wasn't a plan to like meet at the bottom of the mountain or meet down in Santa Rosa or let's all connect. Everybody just flew. And again, a lot of people flew without anything but their night clothes on, because it was probably about that time by 11 o'clock at night. And so the scattering in the midst of everything else was, I think, a challenge. And so one of my really smart women who was with me suggested that I have a Zoom call. So a couple days after this happened, I scheduled a call, and the majority of the women were on the call. And I think that was an excellent suggestion and a really good way for people just to connect. A lot of people didn't know people well. I run a lot of groups, so some people knew people, some people didn't know people. But it was just really good for people to have an opportunity to just check in and share what their experience was and their fear and their upset. So if in fact you ever do have something disastrous happen in the midst of any kind of business thing where there's people involved, I really recommend that you figure a way to pull everybody back together soon after to give them an opportunity to connect with each other and to connect with you. And then the other caveat is that when this is all happening, I will speak for myself, thought this was an isolated fire, right? So as I convened with some of the women down at one of the women's house, because the adrenaline was pumping, nobody was going to sleep, right? We were talking about reconvening at my conference room the next day, even though the retreat was sort of, obviously not going to go back up to Mayacamas, because I'm still thinking, well, tomorrow, everybody we'll just start up and I'll figure it out. I'm good at flying by the seat of my pants, so we'll figure it out. Having no idea what the scope of this fire was going to be. Mm. And so the next shock was at 4:00 in the morning. One of my friends called and says, we have to evacuate. And I said, evacuate from what? And she said, there's fire. And I said, but you're down here in Santa Rosa. What are you talking about? And she said, there's fire across the field from my house. I have to go. Can I come? Oh. So, it just was, it was intense. Yeah. So anyways, is there anything in particular you want me to talk about in relationship to the retreat and the fire, or did I sort of give a good coverage for you?
You definitely gave us some good coverage, and I do want to come back to some things. I think I'm going to pull us back to kind of get to know you better in general.
Sure.
And I'll ask you some more questions around handling the unexpected. But before I even do that, Cynthia, I really want to acknowledge you, and I want to acknowledge you for a few different things, okay? Because as business owners, sometimes we act as if, our business is our baby, it's our whole life. And there are times that we need to know when's the right time to be able to step away from the business, think bigger than the business, and really get what's going on in the world. And I wanted to first acknowledge you for actually contacting me and saying to me, you know what, Jose, this is bigger. This is bigger than my business. This is bigger than the retreat. Even if it could have hurt your business by not having this interview, you still were able to separate yourself from that. And we need that. We need to be able to sometimes step back and do what's best for ourselves, do what's best for our communities, and know when it's not time to be in business mode. And that's really hard to do. And I thank you for being a role model of that, because I do know other business women who would be like, okay, and we're doing interview live, right? This interview live right in front of the fire. And it's not, it's not appropriate, right? Like, and I appreciate that you made the right call on that, because it's not like, that was not all about business. And the other thing I really want to acknowledge you for is caring. I mean, you just have this level of caring way past people being your clients. I can just hear that in what you're saying with the Zoom call, that it wasn't just about the retreat and just doing the retreat to do the retreat, but like, you genuinely care. You care about them. You care about their safety. You gave them this huge outlet to just express their upset with the situation, whether that was part of the curriculum or not, and just be. And I think that just makes you not just a great business leader, but just a great human in the world, and somebody who's conscious of what's going on and really there just for people. So please, I just really wanted you to get that acknowledgement.
And I thank you for that. Left to my own devices, I was pretty imploded last week, but fortunately I have good people around me who have good ideas and good advice and help me stay the path to show up the way I want to show up, So I that's why I appreciate community so much, is that we all have each other's best interests at hearts. And, as strong of a person as I am, This really took me down my own little rabbit hole pretty deeply. So I'm glad that I was able to and have been able to emerge and be there for my community and my clients.
Oh.
So thank you.
Now I'm curious, just in general, what got you interested in general and even doing events and retreats?
Sure. Okay. That's a good question. So I've been a business consultant since 2004. I sold my company and decided that my next mission in life was to bring women into the seven-figure business world. That's really my passion.
Woo!
So few of, there's lots of women in business and lots of women entrepreneurs. And, interestingly enough, the statistic in 2004 was less than 3%. And the statistic in 2017 is still less than 3%. And that makes me very sad. So my focus is a lot about bringing women into successful business. That's what I know. That's my skill set. So, one of the things I've been doing for a really long time is mastermind groups, because I am really all about building community. And what I knew as a business owner with the size business I had is that the isolation was very painful. When you don't have other people who have a business of your size, there's just not a lot of connection about the issues that you're dealing with. And so my goal all along has been to bring women together for that support, and that community building, so that they don't feel isolated. So the retreats ultimately are sort of a natural extension of that, but a more recent part of my business. I did my first retreat in February of this year, and it's interesting. For me, it's an interesting process. I decided a number of years ago that I wanted to monetize my speaking. I do a lot of speaking, and that I wanted to be a national speaker. So I hooked up with Katarina Rondo and took her speaking course. And somewhere in the middle of that, she started getting really interested in retreats and events. And so she started doing these 1 day and 2 day event and retreat, workshops, seminars. And I thought, this is a really good idea. And it started probably several years ago also, And so for the last number of years, I've been noodling on the idea, but frankly, I'm terrified. So somebody suggested that, that maybe I survey my clients and just see, if they were interested in a retreat, what that might look like. So I created this survey, and I gave it to I have 4 mastermind groups that I facilitate. And so I gave it to all my mastermind people and a couple of other groups that I'm in, and, sort of got an idea that underlying my questions, that there appeared to be some level of interest. So I did this was like probably last summer and fall. So about October of last year, one of my mastermind groups, which is a 7-figure group, everybody in there has 7-figure businesses. They kept saying, like, when's the retreat happening? When's the retreat happening? And I said, I am afraid that if I do this retreat, nobody will come. And I won't do it because I just can't deal with the failure of it. And there's 6 women in the group, and all 6 of them said, we'll sign up. We'll come to your retreat. And 5 of the 6 actually did follow through. And so I had 5 people. And then I said, well, I have to have a retreat. So, and then the next hurdle for me was cost. And, is it going to be worth somebody's money to have a retreat? And I had a lot of concern because, I know my value, and I don't have trouble stepping into my value, but this is something that's out of my comfort level. It's new to me. And even though on the one hand, I'm confident that I know what I'm doing and can make this all work out, there's this other part of me that I have a rabbit hole that says, what if they're all really think it was really a waste of their time and their money? So my struggle was to figure out, how to make it affordable, even though it turns out that wasn't really an issue for most of my clients, because the feedback I got was they wanted a more VIP location. So I looked at lots of retreat centers, and I chose one, and I chose it because I thought it was a really nice place to do a retreat, and it would And a lot of my clients wanted single rooms. There's a lot of criteria in my world, you know, and probably in your world too, not just in mine. So anyways, we did the retreat and we did it right down the street from where we did this most recent retreat, and both places burned down. So neither of them exist any longer, which is quite sad. And what I learned at the first retreat is that people want a VIP experience, that they want a certain level of ambiance. It was too rustic for my clients, even though, you know, many of us live in the countryside up here, you know, and that they were happy to pay for a nicer location, a more VIP location, which is what the most current one was. One of the things that I know, and Katerina talked about this in her interview, which is really important, is that I did no planning for retreat number 2, because in that moment, I didn't even imagine there was going to be another retreat. I thought this was going to be a one-off thing that I was going to do, and, you know, whatever. So my big mistake was not having retreat number 2 planned, and getting people signed up for retreat number 2, because I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to do it that way than it is to go have to fill a retreat from scratch all over again when the first one was done, right? Mm-hmm. So that was a big learning for me. And so, of course, you know, I had paid my accommodations for my second retreat, my third retreat, which would have been next year. I was ready for it. I was so ready, you know, it's like I was so ready. But going back to the first retreat, what I will tell you is that it was the most amazing experience of my consulting life. I have never felt so connected and so fabulous in anything I've done as a consultant. And so, you know, certainly part of it is the response of the people who were there. But I'll tell you, it's a zone that I have never been in before that was very, very, very fulfilling for me. So.
Wow. And I'm curious, like, if you could just talk about that even a little bit more, because I know we have people listening who are also in the business consulting or marketing consulting or sales consulting realm, and they're working with people more one-on-one. And what I hear and what you're saying is you're a big community person.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit more about the transition from working one-on-one versus actually becoming a community, what community means for you, and how that really lives at the events and retreats you're doing?
Okay. Well, I think that I'm gonna sort of start backwards from the retreats. I think that the beauty of a retreat is that you have 3 or 4 or 5 days together. So it's an opportunity to really strengthen connection, which I believe is the basis for community. So for me, you know, and this just goes back to my you know, I've been a political activist. I mean, I'm just big on community. And I think that the one-on-one stuff, as much as it has a purpose, and I do a lot of it, don't get me wrong. It's not like I don't do it. But for me personally, the group process is the most satisfying and fulfilling experience, because this is what I've learned, is that, you know, women generally are pretty brilliant. And even if we're in our own rabbit hole, or we're stuck, or we're upset, or something really difficult is challenging us, we still can pull it out to be absolutely brilliant on behalf of somebody else's situation. And so, you know, knowing that you're not alone, you know, knowing that other people have been through it, knowing that there's someone to go to that perhaps will understand what you're going through, those are extremely empowering experiences for people to have. And I think that part of my success as a business consultant is that that's a lot of my focus and a lot of what I bring to fruition. Now, part of the reason I started with the groups, in addition to my values and principles and personal preference, is that it's also a way to work with people who are at different levels of business. My one-on-one clients are specifically women who are building 7-figure businesses or taking their 7-figure business to the next level, because really that's the highest and best use of my time one-on-one. You know, I'm not good with startups. You know, it's just not my thing. You know, I like people who already are who who are in the thick of it, have the investment and just don't know how to do it or need help doing it. But my mastermind groups are varied, meaning there's all different kinds. There's brick and mortar businesses. There's sole proprietors who, have maybe a service business. There's some people who have online businesses. It's a very diverse group. So it provides me the opportunity to touch a lot of different women doing a lot of different things. In the consulting world, I'm a generalist. I don't have a specific type or kind of business that I am an expert at. I'm really a general expert in many, many areas. And so it doesn't really matter what your particular business is. So, if you are a consultant that primarily does one-on-one work, and that really floats your boat, there's really no reason to do anything differently. For me, again, it's personal preference. It's where I get the most satisfaction. I get tremendous satisfaction taking somebody from $0 to $1 million. I'm not going to lie to you. That's like extremely satisfying. But in addition to that, I also really like the whole community of support that business women offer one another.
Now, I want to jump back to something you said when you were first deciding, if you were even going to do a retreat, and you talked about doing some market research with your mastermind groups. And for some people on this call, they definitely want to do market research. They have no idea, what should they be asking? Should they already figure out what the treat looks like and then get feedback on it, or should they co-create it with their community? How did you go about it, and suggestions you have?
Well, I think it was one of my smart clients who suggested it. I'm really grateful to be surrounded by so many brilliant people, because it really helps me be really much better at what I do. It's my landline. I'm sorry, I cannot turn it off. I did turn my cell phone off, but you have to wait this one through. But what I did is that I thought about, what's important in terms of structuring a retreat? Some people prefer weekends versus work days. Now, I'm a big proponent of doing work things during the week. I don't like my clients to be doing their work on the weekend, so my retreats are Sunday through Wednesday. So the majority of it is during their work week. So I wanted that. I wanted, how much downtime do people really want? What are you coming for? So I had a list of different, what's most important to you? Is it connecting with other people? Is it doing business stuff? Is it having time to lay around and do nothing? Walk through the countryside, swim in the pool? Because I needed to know, based on what their preferences were, what I needed to be providing them. If you listen to Katerina's talk, she said that, her luxury retreat, which I've been on 3 times, and I find it really quite enjoyable, but hers have no business focus. That doesn't come into play in her retreats. You're not there to work on your business per se. You're there to really take care of yourself. I, on the other hand, roll a little bit differently, and for me, it's an integration of business aspects and interpersonal aspects, right? So that's what I'm sort of going for. So I wanted to know what my clients wanted. What's important to them? How much free time do they want? Do they want a lot of structure? Do they not want a lot of structure? So what you need to think about, if you're thinking about surveying people, and you can do it over the telephone, you can do it through, I handed this out to people and made them do it while I was sitting right there. So I know that they'd actually get it done, so that works for me. But you need to think about, what's important to you, and frame it so that you can get the range of how important those things are to your potential retreat attendees. Because, it has to be an alignment, I think, between you and the people that you're inviting. You want there to be some commonality in terms of, what's going to be delivered and what's going to be received. And that's why I said, mine are invitation only, because I know what I want to deliver, and I want people to know what they, to identify what they want to receive within that, to see if that's a good fit for them. Okay? And again, most retreats are not like that. Most retreats, people, invite whoever wants to come. I do realize this. So that's not my way. So.
I'm curious, everybody asks the question of success, what makes something successful? And what would you say in your own definition What's the definition of being successful at one of your retreats?
Oh, success. Well, that feeling that I had when I did my first retreat was definitely a feeling of overwhelming success, and very different than anything I'd ever experienced. It was just such a flow. You know, I wish I could come up with better words to explain it. And everybody wanted me to do it again. You know, everybody said, when's the next one? When's the next one? And as I told you, it hadn't even occurred to me there was going to be a next one. So I think those are the two measures of my success, was that, oh, it felt exceptionally good to me, and it felt exceptionally good to my clients. And so we all wanted to come back and do it again.
Mm-hmm. Now, another thing you had brought up is you said that, you know, you are very committed to being on the national speaking circuit, and you've worked with Katerina, right, in the past. And I'm just curious, I mean, for people who are thinking, oh, should I just try to do this on my own versus working with an expert? Like, what's the advantage of having somebody work with you, and how did you choose Katerina?
It was very random, I'm going to say. It's a long story, but I'll try and make it really, I'll try and shorten it up. I got invited to one of her summits, and, you know, I'm a business consultant, and I'm a very well-versed and very successful business consultant. And and this was her business summit, not her speaking summit, right? But, and I have to tell you, know, so it was a 2-day thing, and it just was an opportune moment. I think I was just looking for something and it just seemed like I wanted to try it. And I wasn't thinking about the speaking thing at all. Really, I have to tell you, this did not cross my mind. And, you know, anyways, her events are extremely valuable, because even for me, as somebody who's very seasoned, I learned a lot. You know, Katerina has a different perspective, a different approach, a different way of talking about things and seeing things, and it was very refreshing, and I liked it. And so somehow the speaking piece got integrated in there, and in that moment, I sort of felt like, I thought, oh, you know, that's my next thing. You know, I really want to elevate my speaking, and I just thought it was a great idea, and I hadn't really ever thought about it before. I mean, I had a speaker sheet, you know, I wasn't a dum-dum speaker, but, you know, I just hadn't really considered taking it to another level other than just doing it the way I had been doing it. And it was really, you know, Katerina is very motivating. The group is very motivating. The accountability is very helpful, and it pushed me way out of my comfort level, both with the retreats and the speaking. What Katerina does very well is push you out of your comfort level. And you get really good results when you get out of your own way. When I got out of my own way, I got really good results. I'll just say, you know. So for me, having an expert in my back pocket, so to speak, was really valuable. And Katerina has been, I mean, especially with my first retreat, she was really there for me as I was struggling my way into that retreat, because I was terrified. You know, I mean, I'll just say it doesn't really matter how much success I have in the many different areas I have success. This was something new. And, you know, my stuff came up about, well, you know, I couldn't count on being successful. So I had a lot of, like, you know, little talk and chatter going on that was difficult. And Katerina was really there for me and really supported the success of my event. And she also attended both of my retreats, which I do not take lightly, because I don't think Katerina spends time doing things like this that are not of value to her. So anyways, I think that I never really had thought about getting an expert. I mean, even though I am an expert and I help people, I never thought about getting my own expert to help me. So I fell into it really sort of accidentally and felt like it was one of the best things that's happened to me, because it helped me go somewhere different than I wasn't going, where that I didn't know I had to go. So that's the value for me.
So, you know, from the time that you started taking courses with Katerina to the time you put on your first retreat, how long did it take you to get the process going? And then once you understood the process going, how quickly can you now do other retreats?
Well, as I said a while ago, it was a gradual process. I got the idea. I liked the idea of doing a retreat. And I would say initially, I didn't have a lot of probably serious thoughts about it. It did get me thinking about doing more, excuse me, like 1 day and 2 day. I mean, I do workshops, I do classes, I teach a lot, but Katerina has a little bit of a different focus. And so I think I integrated some of her focus sort of ongoing. And again, the thing about the retreat was that it just sort of was niggling at me for a while. And so it was probably at least a couple years, maybe 2 or 3 years between I first like had the Katerina inspiration and the actual execution. In terms of, well, okay, so one of the things that I would say is in my wheelhouse is that once I learn how to do something, I'm very good at doing it. So the second retreat, the only part, this is a true confession, okay, this is true confession, is the part that's hard for me is filling the seats. So logistics, finding the place, getting the shit together, getting my workbook, my collateral, my agenda, I know how to do that, right? Filling those seats is really stressful for me, which is why part of me, I'm so disappointed. I worked so hard on this one that blew up, and I was so prepared to have it be so much easier next time. So, what can I tell you? And Katerina and a couple of other people in my community were very, very helpful in working with me to make my sales calls because, I apparently am just like most everybody else is making those sales calls is really tough. It's my least favorite thing to do. And I can't say I love it any more than I used to, but what I love is that I filled 16 seats in my retreat and, I started from scratch again. Even though half of the women were women who had come to the previous retreat, I still had to call everybody or meet with everybody and get everybody signed up again because I hadn't done anything back in February. So, and I thought I should tell you a little bit about, so what am I doing now that my retreat blew up? So I am not a quitter, and I am a firm believer that these women want the retreat. I mean, I could see the first night that everybody was so there and wanting to be there and needing to be there. So I am rescheduling the retreat for February. In fact, I'm going to go out next week and look at a different location. And in the meantime, I am scheduling a 1-day get together in November for everybody to come together. And I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I want to bridge between retreat that started on fire and retreat that's going to happen in February so that I'm not picking it up 5 or 6 months later. I don't want to do that. I'm hoping that we'll be on the other side of it by February. So next month we'll as many, I mean, I have one client was from Chicago and people, not all from this area, but I'm hoping that the majority of people will come together and we'll spend the day together being in retreat mode, though we won't be in a retreat.
Gotcha. And I know you're telling us all about this really cool retreat, and I'm sure people listening are like, okay, Cynthia, you got to tell us like some things that you're doing during this retreat. So what are some of the fun things that you had planned you didn't get to, but you're still pumped up about doing?
I don't know that I'm pumped up about much of anything right now. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not one of those people that has the happy face even when things are not happy, even though, so I'm just more grounded in the reality of life kind of person. But, what we were going to do, again, Katerina was talking about that, you have many different things so that if people don't really relate to one thing or another, it's not a big deal. Again, my retreats are a little bit different than that. So we were going to do, I was bringing someone in to do a 2.5-hour art exercise, a creative exercise to get people out of their heads and more into their creativity, because as probably most of you know, or many of you know, we have a lot of blocks about, things that we would call artistic or creative that we're not good at it. We don't know how to do it. It's never good enough. And I feel like working with that energy tends to free things up, right? So that's one of the things we were going to do. The focus of my retreat was on changing behavior, habits and behavior. How do you manifest change in yourself? And so I had different speakers who were going to do pieces on it, lots of exercises, activities. We had massage. We had lots of different fun things scheduled that, I think would have been extremely awesome. Feldenkrais, we had a Feldenkrais workshop, you know what Feldenkrais is. It's a body alignment thing that's really very wonderful. And yeah.
Now I'm curious, sometimes women have hesitancy around bringing other people into their programs and into their retreats, other experts. What are your feelings on that? What's the upside? What's the downside? Why are you still doing it?
I don't know if it's something I would have done if I had not met Katerina. One of the things that I really learned from her and appreciate about her is how she supports her community. And part of that support is sharing her stage time. And the truth is, Katerina has the majority of the stage, but she also integrates other people and their expertise, and she does it very gracefully and very fluidly. And so I guess I just took for granted when I did my first retreat that I would have other people do some presentations, because one, it enhances the experience for the participants, because, I'm great, I'm wonderful, I'm fabulous, but I'm only me. And I think it's really good when you get other people who have different energy, different inspiration, different ideas, different creativity. It energizes the whole community, energizes the whole room. So I think that's another thing that I would say I learned. I don't know that I would have ever considered that or thought about that in the past, but I am much more generous with my stage time than I think I ever would have been. So I highly recommend it. I think it's good for your community. You're supporting people that you want to support. Ideally, they're supporting you back. It's a win-win, because again, the more you give, the more you get. I do believe that to be a truism. And enhances the experience of the people that you've brought together, under your retreat or your event or your workshop.
Now, another question that our community has brought up is the issue of budget and money, and some concerns around, I want to give my clients or even my potential clients a VIP treatment, but oh my goodness, that sounds expensive. Is this like a big investment? How do we think about money and planning this thing?
Well, I think you have to know who your clients are. So my misstep with the first retreat is that my clients were willing to spend more money than I was willing to ask them for. Okay. That's not true with everybody. And it's not true with all the people who came. Some of my clients are not as well healed as others, but we make it work and they come. There's different tiered within your retreat environment is good. Like what's different, many of my clients, I think about half of the women wanted single rooms, for example. Single rooms are expensive. They did not care, right? But generally speaking, like Katerina's retreats, everything's a double room because that's what's most affordable. If you think about how these things are structured, they're filling beds, and so everything's based on the 2 beds per room because that's how many people you're feeding. So it's just a mathematical thing for these retreat centers. So if only one person is in that space, they're going to pay more because they have to make up for the person who's not there. Some of it. So. Like Maya Comments, what was really nice about it is they had dormitory, doubles, and singles, right? And the dormitory was shared baths. Like even there were 2 single rooms, it turned out, but they were sharing the toilets and the showers and all that. And then 2 of them were more, they were single beds, 2 people to a room, and they were probably less than half the cost of the single room. So for the people who were looking for a more less expensive, they wanted the experience, but they didn't have as much resources. It worked out well for them too. So I suggest that you consider, if it's possible, that there's tiers, so that your more well-heeled clients or people who are looking for the more quote luxurious experience can have it. And a lot of times that comes from just having their own room. You know, a lot of my clients are mothers with young children or people who don't get much time alone. And so that solitude is high on their list of priorities, right? So, you know, I frankly don't even remember exactly what the question you asked me was. So I answered that piece of it. What else can I offer that I didn't get to?
Oh, in terms of budgeting.
Oh, budget. Okay. Okay. So know your clients' capabilities to pay, I think, is important. Now, maybe some people think you can get people to pay whatever you want them to pay. That's not sort of how I operate. I want alignment. I'm really big on alignment. You know, I like things to be as good for me as they are for you. So I want you to have an experience that is within your comfort level. I don't want you to have to stretch outside of your comfort level to come to my retreat. You know, I mean, now emotionally, I might ask you to stretch, you know, intellectually, I might ask you to stretch, but the financial piece, I like to have the variations on the thing. Now, you know, Katerina did a really good job of going over, you know, 10% for this, 20% for that. And I think you should go back and listen to her if you didn't already do that. I have a little bit of a different approach. What I do is I mapped out how much it was going to cost. I got all of the expenses that the retreat center was going to charge me, including tax. You know, don't forget about tax, gratuity. Sometimes there's a site charge. So I got every last inkling of how much that was going to cost me. And I'm just going to, and I'm a very financial oriented person, so you might laugh when I tell you this, but I pretty much just said, well, if you know, if my hard cost is this, and I can sort of guesstimate what my other costs are from the retreat I just did. There's not a lot of marketing involved in mine, because mine is all, again, within my community. But there's a lot of admin. I have 2 admins who support me. And I just ballparked it, and I sort of thought, well, if I double the cost, it'll be fine. And, you know, it sort of was. You know, so I took my hard costs and doubled them, as opposed to 10% for this. But Katerina's way is probably more methodical, and if you're not familiar with doing things like that, I would go with her direction. The first retreat I did not make a lot of money at, and I did not plan to make a lot of money because I was afraid nobody would pay me any money to come do the retreat. So I wanted it to not cost a lot, which meant that I didn't make a lot. But it was a really, really good learning experience. And going forward, you know, with this one and going forward, my plan was to make money. And it's something I'm good at doing. So I feel confident that, you know, what I'm doing is in alignment with my goal of ultimately making money.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think the thing that, you know, just make sure you know what all your hard costs are. I think a lot of times we get into la land with, we forget about the sales tax and the, you know, and with tourists, you know, what you're paying tourist tax, it's expensive. It's not sales tax. It's a lot more expensive. You know, the gratuities, there's mandatory gratuities, which that adds a chunk of change. So just make sure you know all of your hard costs. And then, you know, usually you can guesstimate the rest of it. I mean, if you work with an admin, you know, I mean, I think my admin time was for one of them was about 40 hours and the other one was about 15 hours. And the 15-hour person is the one who actually puts all my collateral together, does my flyers. And the other person is the one who's actually helping me more with the logistics and, you know, the sort of bigger picture of the retreat. So I guess I had 55 hours of admin time for this retreat, which, you know, that costs money. So that was probably my biggest expense. And then the swag bags is probably also up there too. You know, I have buying branded bags and then all the stuff you put in the bags. So those are probably the bigger expenses that on my retreat.
Gotcha. And, you know, I'm curious because there's a lot of women entrepreneurs. They're in the consideration stage of hiring admins or exec assistants or virtual assistants. And I mean, if you could just talk a little bit more about doing that versus not doing that, you know, your experience.
Well, I would say there's times when I am penny wise, pound foolish, and I think that not hiring an admin fell into that category back before I did it. I've had an admin for probably 6 years now, a really good one. She's a virtual assistant, and then I have my on-the-ground assistant who helps me with the retreats. You know, admin work is not the highest and best use of most of our times. And even though we're thinking, but I have to pay somebody to do this, you know, what for me, how I reconcile it is that, you know, the truth is I can do most anything you put before me. I can figure it out. I can get, you know, I can, you know, wade through anything. However, it doesn't feel good. It takes a long time, and it's probably not even going to be very good when it's said and done if it's not, again, something that falls within my skills or my strengths. So at some point, I realized that I was saving so much of my time, which meant saving so much money by paying someone really a fraction of what I am charged per hour to do things that they are so good at and so fast at. And once I got on that roll, I will never turn back, never, because a good admin is worth their weight in gold, and they just make your life so much easier, so much easier. And you can't do a retreat without help. That's the other thing. You cannot do it without help. You know, you can get your friends and family to help you, but getting someone who has the skills you need is probably better.
Now, the other thing I'm curious about is, you know, when you're doing retreats, when you're running your business, there are things that are very signature, right? About you and your brand. I know, like, the name of your business and your personal personality is, you know, you're the biz diva, right?
Correct.
And that's very signature. Can you talk a little bit more about taking your signature brand and really, how does that work with putting events together?
Okay. Well, so I have a specific look and feel to my marketing collateral, and everything I do captures that look and feel, including, like, when I did my branded bags for the retreat, they had my logo on them, my color scheme. I'm not as good at it or as thorough at it as someone like Katerina is, because she does a lot more marketing than I do. I'm pretty much a referral-based business at this point, so I'm not out in the world as much as I have been in the past. In my perfect world, I would have branded journals. I would brand a lot more of it. And again, now that I'm on this retreat path and I can see that there's a future during retreats, I'm probably going to be investing more in my marketing collateral, but specifically for the retreats, not so much to bring people to the retreat, but that within the retreat, there's more that's branded to me, because I think that's a shortcoming on my part. You know, if you're selling a retreat, again, this is something that Katerina talked about a lot in her interview with Joss, which is that, you know, you can't expect people who don't know you, who've never experienced you, to sign up for, you know, a 3, 4, or 5 day financial commitment to spend time with you. Now, it does happen now and again. You know, I'm going to say that it's not like it never happens, but the majority of people that want to spend time with you, it's because they've already spent some time with you and they want to spend more time with you and with your community. So I think what's most important is setting yourself up for success by doing the one day, the smaller, you know, getting people primed, you know, contacting existing and past clients and introducing them to the idea that you're doing a retreat and inviting them to come and hear more about it, or what's, you know, what you're doing that's new. Like, so for me, I'll use myself as an example, even though I did not do this, is that I could have called a bunch of people and said, you know, I'm doing this new thing called a retreat, and I really want you to come hear about doing my retreat that's coming up in February. Come spend a couple hours with me, and, you know, da-da-da-da. So if you're as not entrenched as perhaps I am, it's a really good idea to bring your tribe together or people who've been expressed interest in you but haven't ever done any work with you. Bring them together. Give them an opportunity to have an experience with you. You can do this with any new thing that you're getting ready to launch. Where we leave the most money on the ground is by not following up with people, whether it's people that have expressed interest, whether it's past clients. And doing something like a retreat is the so perfect opportunity to reach out to your community and bring them together to hear what your exciting offer is. Okay.
Very cool.
Yeah, and everything should have the look and feel of whatever your brand is. I mean, that I think I recommend, and the more you can brand, the more power to you.
Absolutely. So we are getting towards the end of the hour, and you've given us just so much wonderful information. I really hope everybody has been taking some copious notes. So Cynthia, if there was just one or two things that you just really think will make the biggest difference for anybody doing retreats or considering doing retreats, what would those nuggets be?
Don't let your fear hold you back. That's number one.
Okay.
I think the risk is worth so much value that for myself, I would highly recommend that if it's something you have a passion to do it. And the next, I guess, the other thing that's on my mind is what I was saying at the very beginning is make sure you have good insurance in case something bad happens. And I want to leave on a downer note, but yeah. Anything is possible. And I think that, women in particular are looking for ways to connect. And if you provide them an opportunity and you're able to market to them in a way that they hear what you're saying, they're going to want to come and spend time with you and have that experience with you.
Great. So for everybody listening who wants to learn more about you and your community and being part of a community of 7-figure income earners that are women, can you just tell us a little bit more about how to stay in contact with you or other opportunities to come to your events and, just get to know you?
Sure. My website is bizdiva.biz. Very easy to find me. And I teach the one-page business plan. I teach classes. I do online webinar classes. So the best thing to do if you want to even talk to me about doing your retreat, I'd be happy to give you my 10 cents of learned wisdom. Feel free to contact me. My email address is my name, Cynthia@bizdiva.biz. And again, my website has my contact information on it as well. And I would love to connect with you further and be happy to share whatever I can that will allow you to be successful within your community doing what it is you love to do best.
Wonderful. And what we will do is we'll also send out an email with all your contact information and your website link. And I really highly recommend that everybody goes to Cynthia's website, checks her out. I mean, it really says something that she works with a whole community of 7-figure income earners and women who are just up to amazing big things in their business and as community. So please go and check her out.
And there's also a retreat page if you want to see what I put together for the retreat, which might give you some ideas if you want to put together a retreat page for your event as well.
Oh, that's brilliant. And so we will also definitely be sending out the retreat page. So definitely take a look at it and even take Cynthia up on, if you have any questions, give her a call. And, she's definitely a woman you want in your Rolodex. I'll tell you that much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And for everybody listening, we are going to also send out a survey just so you can tell us what you thought of this interview and ask any other questions you have about retreats that were not covered either in Katerina's interview or Cynthia's interview, because we're here for you. Like Cynthia brought up, we do tons of market research with our Promote Her Business community, because we want to consistently deliver training that you want to hear. And if there's more information you need that we didn't cover, we'll do future interviews about it, okay? So please just take 2 minutes and fill out a survey. We will read every single word. All right. So with that, we are going to wrap up today. So keep promoting your business and each other online, offline, all the time. Cynthia, give me a P.
Give you a P.
Give me an H.
H.
Give me a B.
B.
What do you say?
Hey.
Give me a P.
P.
Give me an H.
H.
Give me a B.
B.
What do you say?
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, hey, hey. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.